Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Scared Shitless. This is a horror retrospective, the show where we rip open horror like we are super-powered little alien bastards looking to take the world. And that is a spoiler warning for anyone who is interested. I am Ryan, and this week I am joined by Ali
How you doing, guys?
and Al.
Hello.
And this week we will be looking at the superhero horror from 2019, Brightburn. Brightburn was written by Brian Gunn and Mark Gunn, brother and cousin of James Gunn, known for Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad fame, and directed by David Yarovesky. There is a very strong possibility I have said that name incorrectly. Brightburn stars Elizabeth Banks, David Denman, Jackson A. Dunn, Matt Jones, Meredith Hagner, and Emmy Hunter. It is the story of a child from another world crash lands on Earth, but instead of becoming a hero to mankind, he becomes something far more sinister.
So it's evil Superman.
Yes, it's evil Superman.
Let's just call it what it is. Evil Superman.
It is literally the story of Superman, but yeah, to the point where he crash lands in Kansas, but instead of being picked up by the Kents, he is picked up by the Brahmins. Brahmins?
Yeah, Brahmins. Yeah. Everything is more or less right to a T on the way at the start of the story.
Yes, Ali. Let's start with you. What did you think of this? Because you're a
massive Superman guy.
Books, you're a big Superman guy.
From a massive Superman guy's point of view, I mean, I know multiple Supermans over the multiverse from DC, and put it this way, thank goodness Clark Kent has a heart, because this kid just didn't. This kid did not have a heart. And I actually love how towards the end of the film, he turned around to his mom and said, I wanted to be good. It's like, what happened?
Well, what happened? But so the film basically, as far as we can tell, he's a reasonably normal kid who just so happens to never have bled. And then he's 12 years old, and the ship that he crash landed on starts to call to him, which happens in Superman as well. I don't know if it happens at 12.
Yes, it does.
But it kind of starts to introduce him to his powers. But the ship here not only introduces him to his powers, but tells him to take the world. And
repeatedly.
He listens. he listens, yeah. So what did you think of it, Al?
I really wasn't sure of it to begin with, and I was a bit sort of, it's probably going to be one of the shitter movies that we watch. But I actually really enjoyed it, considering. I don't know if it's because I have a real problem with Superman being a sort of self-righteous prick, and he always has to be the sort of perfect guy. I quite liked seeing it going the other way, where it was just like, I'm just gonna fuck you up. Okay. Pretty much, you're completely beneath me. You can hurt me if you wanted to. You shoot me in the head with a deer rifle if you wanted. It's not going to do a single thing.
I mean, speaking there is a point in the movie where he's called in to see the school counselor, who also happens to be his aunt, because they're from arse end of nowhere, Kansas.
And everybody's related to everybody in this film.
Yes. And she says to him, he's been pulled in for crushing a girl's hand, like demolishing it.
The only girl who was nice to him as well.
Yeah. I mean, she did call him a pervert.
She was
before
nice
he
to
crushed her hand, but he was a pervert, so he had that coming. But he actually said, like, I can feel remorse, but I just know I'm superior. And it's like, okay, that's that Superman doesn't have that. Superman doesn't believe he's better than everyone else, despite being a god. This kid full on was like,
despite the fact that he
better
is
than everyone. Oh yeah, Superman's better than everyone. But this kid full on knew he was better than everyone and said it outright. And I think if you're superpowered and you have that outlook, it's only going to end badly. It's a one-way ticket to dictatorship. This was more almost more what would happen if Zod crash landed on Earth instead of what would happen if Kal-El crashed on Earth.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But yeah, I mean, we could get caught up talking about Superman, but I feel this film was also potentially I think they maybe were trying to do like an allegory for puberty. He turns 12. He just
all
starts
teenagers
to
go
get
through
interested
puberty
in
and
girls.
little psychopaths.
Yeah, he turns to a little dick. He changes. He gets these powers. I mean, his dad even talks to him. At one point about touching his penis in what is got to be the most awkward sex talk put on in any movie.
It's when he's sitting there, they're out waiting for the deer to arrive. He's like, "Should I do that now?" He's like, "No, you shouldn't."
No, yeah, that was awkward. So yeah, I think they tried to do an allegory for puberty in general. How well it worked is probably up for debate. And they kind of foreshadowed what was going to happen with him taking the world, with the whole conversation about the wasps in class.
Yeah.
Where they spoke about how some wasps are incapable of building their own hive, so the as children are placed into other hives, and then they grow up to take over the hive that they're put in. That's very much what happened here. He was put in this hive, and he's going to grow up and take it. So you can probably assume that the race he comes from maybe send kids out with the intention of them taking over planets.
That makes sense.
Which is quite interesting, but with the exception of them discussing that in class, it really was left unexplored. The only connection there was they had that discussion in class, and then there's him saying, "Take the world from his ship." It would have been nice had they added a bit more to that. So at least I think so. What's your thoughts on that?
I quite like it when they leave it fairly ambiguous, because it's a bit more like you would get sort of in a book where things are left open and it's your interpretation of it. Mm-hmm. And like you have one interpretation, like you said, and somebody else could have something totally different. I quite like it when it's kind of nice when you're not spoon fed all the answers.
And it is entirely possible. Everybody has way too much into this. It's possible. It's not that deep.
It's quite nice where everybody can kind of make their own backstories and their own theories about what happens up, rather than them just flat out telling you, "Oh, this is what happened."
Yeah, and
it keeps people interested.
I mean, I think a lot of people will naturally just think of Superman and leave it at that. Probably not look any further into it at all. But I do think
this
it's
film,
nice
definitely,
that there is the possibility to look a bit further into it, should you be so inclined. So anyway, let's talk about his descent into. I don't know if dictatorship is the correct word, but it may be. So
omniscient, because he essentially becomes a godlike figure that nobody can stop.
Yeah.
Not that anybody's worshipping him. Right? There will be somebody, but
via his own ship. So, and nobody caught that.
Except his mum, and then when she tried to do something about it, he fucked her up.
Yes.
So I mean, we're definitely going into it. So there's a lot of deaths in this movie, but there's 6 people he kills.
Really
hands-on
as well. I thought.
You think what?
I thought the deaths were really were quite graphic.
Yes, yeah,
they were done
some
quite
of them
well.
were. So there was let's say, I mean, there were a lot, but there were 6 that he done kind of one-on-one. So
Waitress was the first, wasn't it?
the waitress was the first,
Yes.
who was his crush's mum. So earlier in the film, he kind of gets a bit weird and starts stalking her. She calls him a pervert. He crushes her hand. And then when he goes to speak to her again, she's like, my mum won't let me talk to you. And he's like, I'll take care of that. Next scene, turns up at where his mum works, torments her, scares the absolute shit out of her. Ends up.
It's not done there.
No, not even close. Not even close. Like breaks a light and ends up with a bit of glass in her eye. To which she
the
pulls
glass
out.
in the eye was brutal
awesome.
when she pulls it out.
Yeah, I mean, you actually messaged me when you were watching that scene, Al.
Yeah.
Like,
anything with eyes like that.
yeah.
It just sends a shiver up my spine.
Yeah, no. I mean, or getting it in the eye would be bad enough, but the fact that you could see her taking it out, it was
getting it in the eye wasn't that bad, but it was the whole pulling it out.
Did. And then afterwards, they kind of showed half the screen as red when you got it through her point of view. It looked really cool.
That was cool.
And then she tries to hide in the fridge, which he just rips to pieces.
It didn't go well.
And then kills her by essentially just leaping on her. So that, I mean, we don't really see much more than that for her death. But the lead up
except to see her body later,
pretty graphic.
Her body's pinned in the bit where the spaceship was later on.
Yes, it was.
It's sort of like ripped open at the stomach.
Yes. So next, the next death in the movie is his uncle Noah, who is telling him off for being a creepy little shit and hiding in the cupboard. And then he goes to drive him home, but he disappears, and then he picks up his uncle's car and drops it, and he gets his face impaled on the wheel and his jaw is hanging off. What did you think of that one?
That was class. It was a brilliant death.
As well.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was pretty graphic.
The whole jaw dropping down and then flopping out the place where he's clearly still totally alive, but essentially bleeding out via his face.
Tried to hold his jaw onto himself.
That was a brilliant death. Absolutely brilliant.
That was, I've got to say, that was a good one. What did you think of it, Ali?
I loved it. I mean, the fact that he was still going on the way to the hospital as well, but they didn't show that, so he was still. I thought it was brilliant. The effect of just the way that they done the dangling jaw, I thought it was lovely.
I liked the whole him hitting the dashboard of the car. Lights come on, wee boy standing there. Yeah. The lights go out, hits it again. Wee boy's floating in the air, and he's like, no, and the lights go off again. Hits the dashboard again. He's just gone. It's like, shit. And the next thing, he's getting picked up by the back end of his truck.
Yeah,
that was class. I like that.
It was good. It was very good. I liked the actor who played him as well. That was Matt Jones, who was, I know him from Breaking Bad. I'm sure he was in a lot of other stuff, but he was one of the tweakers in Breaking Bad. I really liked him in that, and I really liked him in this. So I don't remember seeing him in anything else, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for him after seeing him in these two things, because I think he was really funny, but not trying to be funny, just naturally funny when he was saying you're hanging about in the closet in this creepy mask, and he's like, it's not creepy. He's like, well, he is creepy, and he takes him out, and I thought he'd done it really well, because I thought it was a realistic response to that scenario. Yeah. Up until he drives away willy-nilly, that didn't make any sense. But anyway, the next death was actually his dad, because
I felt sorry for him.
his dad knowing
I had to shoot him in the head.
Yeah, his dad
when he
knows
wasn't
something's
looking.
wrong and shoots him in the back of the head with a deer hunter rifle, and
It does nothing.
And so he ends up getting his heat vision to the face.
Melts a hole from the front side to the back side of his head.
Yeah. Now this death I've seen before in Injustice, and it is how Superman kills Shazam in the Injustice video game by heat vision him clean in the eyes, and it eventually burns clean through Shazam's head. I never thought I would see it on film, so that was that was kind of.
You're never going to see it in the big screen movies, are you?
There was talk that it was going to happen in Man of Steel, but they thought it would be too graphic.
It would definitely have been too graphic, 100%.
Well, yeah,
that was one of the arguments, I'm saying.
They're never going to get their teenager-friendly rating if they do that, are they?
No. You cannot have Superman burn a hole through Zod's head in a 12A Superman movie. Yeah, that's you're not getting away with that one. But I think it was a very clear display of the character's power.
Yeah.
The next death is the sheriff, who, his mum has called the authorities because she's found all the creepy drawings and shit under his bed. She knows his dad's dead. And the sheriff just gets splattered, like he just flies into him or something. It was death.
That death really reminded me of the first episode of The Boys, the TV series on Amazon. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have seen it. Essentially, he runs through the lassie. She steps off.
Their guy, who's essentially their version of the Flash, just is running from wherever to wherever and just disintegrates some random lassie who's walking down the street.
Yeah, just clean through. Yeah,
I quite like that. I quite liked the sheriff just imploded and there was just nothing there.
I liked how sudden it was. Like I didn't see it coming. It was
it was just like splat. He's gone.
Yeah. What did you think of that, Ali?
I loved it as well. That's doing it at super speed. That was like their way of saying this is what could happen if the Flash just went like that. No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that death scene.
So after that, we have the deputy who actually turned up with the sheriff. And I think the most accurate description of the way she died is she was Loki'd. Because if you've seen the Avengers, the Hulk picks Loki up and just rattles him off the ground. And that is exactly what happens to her in...
It's what happens if you do that scene to a human being.
Yes. I think Loki'd is the only correct term for that death.
So, I like it.
And finally, it's not the final death in the movie, not even close, but it is the final kind of personal death, one-on-one. He kills his mom, who tries to defend herself with a shard of the spaceship that he landed in. But he stops her. He flies her up into the air, and he just lets her go. It's effective. Yeah,
it is effective. It's a shame as well because
he went unnecessarily high. This was the only thing that annoyed me.
You think?
Well, 450 meters above the Earth, it means you reach terminal velocity, and he took her substantially farther.
Yeah.
And she didn't have any problem breathing.
I don't know how quickly it was supposed to have happened, though.
But he still had her up there for a couple of seconds before he dropped her, where you'd at least be showing some sort of distress, if not for nothing else, by the fucking cold that there would be up above the cloud level.
Yes. No, I did actually kind of expect that because with how high he flew her, I was expecting her face or something to start freezing.
I don't expect her to. Well, I was just going to say I don't expect her to freeze like shooting a cartoon, but at least show that you're a bit cold and you're struggling to breathe a bit would have been nice, rather than her just seem completely unfazed by the fact that she's probably a good mile or so up off the ground.
Yeah, I get you.
I agree with that.
And yeah, like the other thing is the maths thing that like anything over 450 meters isn't required because she's gonna die. You've already reached terminal velocity if you get dropped at 450 meters, so you dead.
So your problem isn't that he killed her; it's that he killed her excessively.
Yes, exactly.
And well, that was the final kind of in-person death. But after that, we see he takes out a plane, which
yeah,
I think it said it had 200 something passengers
Over
on
250
it.
foot, I believe.
I don't know if he just didn't fly out of its way, or if he flew through it, or if he used his heat vision, or if he ripped it open. We never really saw it. We saw the plane coming. We then saw the
he was just kind of
wreckage.
floating in front of it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When we saw him.
But we never saw him collide with it or anything. We simply saw the wreckage afterwards. And then
they talked about him sinking boats as well.
Yes, in the credits we can see him sinking boats. We see a building collapse. We see there's a bridge go down at one point. I think there's a series of disasters that he's clearly responsible for. So he's he's killed a lot of people by the end.
I really like that the bad guy didn't die. The bad guy got away with it. I love films that don't have a happy ending.
Well,
I really like that about Swordfish, because essentially the bad guy gets away with it.
Yeah.
In that, and yeah, I like it that you don't have the predictable ending of, and then the bad guy got defeated and the good guys all won and he got the girl and stuff like that. It's good when and he was still cutting a bloody swath across the planet. And end of.
Yeah, that's it.
I like that.
I looked into it, and apparently they were considering making a sequel, so they left it kind of open. But I think it didn't do well enough at the box office to warrant a sequel. But I also read that apparently
32 million
success
worldwide.
It's had on Netflix, it may be getting a Netflix sequel. So we'll see, I suppose.
I mean, I can see why, because I think it was £6 million production and it made 32 worldwide.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a massive success. It wasn't a total flop. But it wasn't a massive success either. So, but if they put it on Netflix, then it would probably do quite well.
If they make a sequel, I will. I'll be interested in seeing it anyway.
I wasn't. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't that excited about watching it, but I enjoyed it far more than I thought I would.
Yeah. Ali, you were quite excited about this one when you saw it was essentially evil Superman. That was your selling point for you.
Yeah. Well, as you said at the start of the video, I know an awful lot about Superman, more than what I really should probably. But yeah, it's overall I really enjoyed this film. Like I said to you at the start and in my text, it's amazing what could have happened to Superman. I mean, there has been multiverse stories of what would happen to Superman if he was brought up in the Soviet Union or in Nazi-occupied Germany, but I think this really hit home of what he could, or what any Kryptonian could do on Earth if they didn't have a heart, which clearly this child did not.
So while you're speaking, Ali, actually, I'm going to rebuke what you said there. I don't think it was about the kid not having a heart. I think he was a sleeper agent. I think he did have a heart, but I think he was activated by his ship. I might be wrong. Maybe
No, that sounds.
What I would like to have seen would be an extra 20 minutes in this movie to get to know the kid a bit before this happens, because they actually
jump straight into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes. And they actually mention how out of character he's acting more than once, but we never see that he's acting out of character because we didn't know what his character was like before he started acting out of it. So as far as we know, maybe he is just heartless, But from what they're telling us, they're saying he wasn't like this, but we never saw him.
It does look like he, similar to what you're saying, like he sort of becomes in a trance when he's getting his ship's basically talking to him. He goes into a trance, and it's the time that he's clawing at the door to try and get to it. Yeah. And all the times that he actually does hurt somebody, he gets this emotionless expression on his face, rather than he does seem fairly normal the rest of the time.
Yeah.
When he was just doing away and stuff like that, in the sort of small moments we see of him as a normal child. I mean, and then there's a distinct change in his expressions and personality, I think.
I think as well, I think he is supposed to, as these powers and whatnot are activated and as his ship tells him to take over, I think his personality is supposed to change. I think he's supposed to become colder and more distant. But we just never see that because we don't have enough before. And this is actually my main issue with the movie. I feel in general it's not as impactful as it could have been or as it should have been. And it actually becomes much more run-of-the-mill. It becomes much more, if Superman was evil, as opposed to, I feel it could have been a bit more than that. It could have been a bit deeper with just a little bit extra. And especially considering Elizabeth Banks and David Denman do a phenomenal job as his parents. I genuinely think both of them were really, really good in this. But I just don't think they actually gave the kid himself enough time to shine, before all this happened. So even, I say 20 minutes, even an extra 5-10 minutes of character stuff before he goes bad and starts crushing people's hands and killing people.
If they did something to make him seem, like, say, I don't think 20 minutes would have been necessarily a great idea, because I do like that it's an hour and a half horror movie, and they're not fucking about with it, and I do like that. I do quite like when they don't go to ridiculous lengths and really drag out the story. There's quite a lot of action. It's quite condensed. I do like that. But yeah, I totally agree with you that 5 minutes showing that he was a really nice little boy would have helped you feel for him when he suddenly starts to change. There would be a lot more compassion for him, rather than we pretty much only see him as a bad guy.
Yeah, it also would have made his mum's reaction to the whole thing more understandable, because throughout the entire thing, his mum doesn't want to believe it's him because he's a good boy. But we haven't seen him be a good boy. And it gets to the point where you're looking at Elizabeth Banks and you're like, are you bloody stupid? It is quite clearly him, but anyway, my opinion. So, Al, what was your favourite kill?
It's really close between two. I really like the kill of the uncle when he drops him. His open mouth falls on the steering wheel and it rips his jaw off. And I really like the kill of the sheriff when he just runs through him. I'm going to say the uncle only because I haven't seen it before, and I have seen somebody run through somebody and just evaporate them before. Honestly, I probably like them both equally as much, but just because it was totally unique and it was really, really good, either CGI or prosthetics that they used for the uncle still being alive and essentially his whole jaw hanging off. That was my favourite.
What about you, Ali?
It's a tie between his father and his uncle, but if I was gonna go for, I'm gonna agree with Al. Definitely, the jaw dangling was my favourite part of that kill. So the ties went more towards his uncle.
Well, I think all three of us are going to give it to the uncle, because the practical effects had that jaw hanging off were fantastic. That has to.
They're great.
Yeah. When initially I saw it and he just picked up the car, and I was like, he's just going to drop the car. It's not going to be, that's going to be so dull. And then it wasn't so dull. I was like, holy crap.
I was really surprised at when they cut to the car window and you saw him essentially bite the steering wheel as it went down, it's like, fuck.
So, yeah, I think that was fantastic. Although the glass in the eye for Erica was super cringeworthy as well, but we didn't actually see her death. We only saw the build up to her death. So that could have, the whole that
did
build
make your
up
skin
was
crawl,
fantastic.
didn't it?
Yeah. But okay, Ali. As normal, we give something stabs out of 5 possible stabs. So, how many stabs would you give this?
I'm going to be generous and give it a 3.5 stab, just simply because, totally agreeing with the two of you that just given that little bit of extra getting to know him would have helped the film a little bit more, I believe.
Okay, what about you, Al?
Yeah, totally agree with Ali. I wasn't looking forward to it. I didn't think it was going to be a particularly good film, and I was really surprised, and I actually really enjoyed it. The deaths were really good. I quite liked the characters in it. Like, say, Elizabeth Banks and the guy who played the father were really good in it. And I was really quite surprised. I went into it probably very close-mindedly, thinking, "Oh, this is going to be shit." But no, I was quite surprised. I actually really enjoyed it. It was really entertaining.
Okay. I'm going to give it slightly less than you guys. I'm going to give it just 3 stabs. I still enjoyed it. I did, and I think the kills were very good. Them alone made it worth watching. But I just felt it was a little more shallow than it could have been. I think it would, like I say, it would have only taken a tiny bit to lift up that. I think a little bit of work would have brought it up so much. I think it easily could have been a 4-stab movie with just that little.
I could see that.
So
exactly like you say, if they just built him up to give you some sort of emotional response towards him, that actually he's a really nice, decent boy, and then he went downhill. It would, like you say, that would definitely put. I could easily see it going, like you say, up to sort of 4 stars. Stabs.
So, but yeah, overall, really enjoyable. So I still give it 3. Definitely worth checking out. So for you guys at home, let us know in the comments what you think about it and how many stabs you would give this film. I keep realizing I'm really bad at these supposed call to actions. So like and subscribe. Do that stuff and all that jazz, and comment and whatever else. If you're missing us doing Scream content, because this is our first video since my original tier lists, where we're not talking about Scream, it's okay. We've got loads of Scream content. Go back and watch that stuff. We just done
and there will be more to come.
There will. We just done a Scream character tier list where we actually end up ranking ghost faces. Not just ghost faces, it's just characters in general, but all the ghost faces are ranked. Go and check that video out and find out who we think is the best and the worst ghost face. Ali was not part of that one. So Ali, who's the best and worst ghost face since you're here? Out of time. Okay. So thanks for joining us. If you want more stuff from Ali, you can find him talking about comics, science fiction, and wrestling over on his channel, Aldo SJ McLaren. Link will be in the description. I'm pretty sure you actually have a Superman video or a couple of Superman videos up there.
I do, yes. I'm also currently working on a series about the Masters of the Universe, which is being approved by a former Mattel brand manager. So that'll be quite cool. Okay.
That may be up before this video is. This is not scheduled for release until October, so we shall see. Yeah, thanks for joining us, and come back next week where we will be discussing Cam, which I don't think any of us have seen before, so we're kind of looking forward to that. I believe it's a doppelganger, takes over a Cam girl's position or something. Could be fun. Check it out and come and join us for it. And like always, and like any good horror villain, we will be back for one last scare.